Hello, beautiful. I'm your host, Nicole Goff. Welcome to the Ecstatic Life Podcast, the podcast for women who want to live fully embodied, nervous system regulated, open-hearted, radiant, and alive. Here we explore the practices, modalities, and lived rhythms that return you to yourself, to your heart, to your body, your intuition, and your divine spark. This podcast is for women who are ready to awaken their inner creatrix, activate their inner manifester, and remember, an ecstatic life isn't a destination. It's the path we're walking together. Hello, and welcome back to the Ecstatic Life Podcast. I am your host, Nicole Goff, and today I am here doing a solo recording, and I want to talk to you a little bit about manifestation. And specifically how I have gone about manifesting an up level for myself, manifesting a more abundant, more aligned, more enjoyable life, and the blueprint for that, and how I am using it now to manifest my next quantum leap, to manifest my next level. So let's jump into it. So not too long ago, I was living with my husband and our 4 kids at the time in a 2-bedroom, single-wide trailer. So 4 years ago, I was definitely feeling quite trapped by my situation. I was pregnant with our 5th kid, and I felt like we were it was a tiny home compared to our family. The fact that it was a mobile home, and not to knock anybody that lives in a mobile home or to shame anyone else, but for me at that point, it wasn't feeling aligned with me anymore. Like, I desired to have a quote unquote real house, a brick and mortar house, and not be living in a mobile home. And I had outgrown this space. Our family had outgrown the space. But as it was, it didn't look like there was any avenue of getting out of there. My husband was making a very modest salary, and we owned our property outright. So it really didn't make any sense. We were comfortable where we were, but it really, for me, financially, I guess, it's comfortable to stay there. But for me, I was very uncomfortable. I really felt like I could not stay in that small of a space, stay in that tight quarters with that many kids for any longer, especially, like I said, with another baby on the way. That felt just so tight, and it made me want to crawl out of my skin. We had a little apartment we had built for my teenager on the property, and all the other little ones were in their own room. But with having 900 square feet in the main house, it was feeling like it was time. On top of that, we also had a homestead. So we were running a little farm basically. And so we had goats and chickens and pigs and rabbits. We had done turkeys, other animals here and there, but it was a lot of work. So I was doing animal husbandry, breeding, raising, selling animals. I was also selling meat, selling eggs. That was a side business that I had. It was a ton of work, laborious work. Milking goats, cleaning out chicken coops. I was also volunteering for 2 different not-for-profits. I run a not-for-profit homeschool cooperative, and at the time I was also running a not-for-profit artist collective, which I have since stepped down from. But to say the least, I was very stretched thin. I was doing a lot of different things, a lot of work that I was getting paid little or nothing for. And then on top of that, I was also starting to try to think about growing my own little business. At the time, I was doing graphics and social media for people and dabbling in helping people manage and start small businesses. So it was a time when I was definitely thinking about expansion. I was thinking about expanding into a bigger version of myself. But in this case, it seemed impossible, right? It seemed like something I couldn't do. I was stretched very, very thin. I had been overgiving. I had been martyring myself in a lot of ways. At the time, I was not aware of it. It wasn't until my surprise pregnancy with my fifth child that I started taking up a self-care practice. So before that, I had been very bad about putting my needs last. And I was always pushing my needs to the back burner. My circadian rhythm was all messed up. I didn't get good sleep. I wouldn't feed myself on a regular basis. It'd be like, oh, I've been running on coffee for hours. And I was always taking care of the family and the community, my husband. I was always taking care of everybody else first. And I was also overgiving. Like I said, running two not-for-profits, taking care of the animals. That was a ton of work. And the mental and emotional pressure of raising that many children and that many animals as well is a huge load. Like that's a huge mental and emotional burden. Animals, sometimes anybody that's worked at a farm or done that kind of work knows sometimes animals die. Sometimes animals get sick and you're up in the middle of the night. Sometimes the goats would have issues with their births and you're up in the middle of the night helping them give birth, or they're sick and you're up in the middle of the night taking care of them, just like children. And then a couple of times we had an animal that passed, and it's hard on you. So I was feeling extremely burnt out. I was feeling very just pushed to my limit, pushed to my edge with this situation. And so, like I said, I found myself pregnant with my fifth child. And on top of all of that, I was not getting along with my husband at all, which is not surprising because I felt like I put everything on him for my emotional needs because I was not taking care of my own. I was not filling my own cup. And so I was looking at him and pointing the finger at him and saying, well, why aren't you helping me? Why aren't you making me feel good? Why aren't you supporting me? And while some of it was that I did need more support, a lot of it was that I wasn't caring for myself and I wasn't asking for the support that I needed in a way that it could be heard and that I could have those needs met. And I actually have talked a lot about that on a couple other podcasts. I'll try to link those in the show notes if I remember. So I found myself at that time in my life at a place where I was just at my edge, at my wit's end. And I was desperately ready for a change. And the thing that seemed like the obvious solution for some reason was that I needed to end my marriage because obviously that was the source of all my problems, right? And looking back, I laugh now, but looking back on it, I mean, this is like a huge, serious thing. I was extremely upset all the time. We were in a very bad place and ended up after the birth of my fifth, we separated for almost a year. And so at any rate, not to make light of that, it was very hard on me emotionally, and not to also say that I didn't have some valid reasons for being upset that did need to be addressed and did need to be worked through. And again, I've recorded other podcasts on that topic. But suffice it to say, that was the solution that I had come up with, that obviously he was the problem, and obviously what I needed to do was figure out a way to get my own place. That's how I escaped that situation, is I leave, right? So to get to the manifestation part, I began working with a coach, and she had experience in this area, and she helped me to really see a bigger picture. And I had some experience in manifestation before this. So I had manifested my dream birth with my fourth and my fifth child. So to rewind back to that, my fourth daughter, I had planned on having a free birth, a completely unassisted home birth. It was during 2020, during COVID. And this is when they weren't letting dads into the delivery room, and they were mandatory testing mom and baby. If anybody came up positive, they were separating mom and baby. So this was super scary times. And I had already at that point had 2 home births and was very comfortable with my body, the process. Maybe I shouldn't say very, very comfortable, but I was confident with myself and being able to do that. So I was like, I am completely staying out of that system. And I could not find a home birth midwife to attend me because all the COVID nonsense. And so I found myself in this position where it's like, okay, I can either engage with the industrial medical system and risk the trauma that could possibly happen by that engaging, or me and my husband could just do this by ourselves. And again, there is risk without having support. But in that, I spent a lot of time really meditating on my dream birth. So I was really focused on manifesting my dream birth. And so what I was engaging with for manifestation at that time was scripting. So I was writing, rereading, rewriting more iterations over and over of the dream birth that I wished to have. And the way that I wrote it, it really came to be so accurately. And the funny thing is, what I learned about that is, and the next birth is, be careful what you wish for. Because I had asked for a slow and easy birth, and I ended up with a 3-day labor. So it went slow for sure, but so much of what I wrote down, I mean, everything really is, everything that I wrote down came to be, down to little details about wanting to have intimate alone time with my husband during it, music, dancing and singing to music, all these little details, and the feelings behind it, the feelings, how I wanted to feel during it. Empowered, not scared, in control, calm. And so that was really my first taste of manifestation. It's like, oh, wow. I looked back afterwards and I'm like, oh, wow. I wrote my birth story out, and it's like my script and my birth story were so close. I'm like, wow, I am powerful. I made this happen, right? So fast forward to my 5th, I'm like, okay, that worked the first time. Let's do it again. Except again, careful what you wish for. This time, I wrote it out to say I wanted a fast labor because I did not want to go through another 3-day labor. All of my other births had been, I guess, on the longer side, at least around 20 to 24 hours, and some a little bit more, but around 24-hour labor. So a full day at least. But this one was from start to finish 4 hours. And I actually have a podcast where I talk about all of my births. And so again, I'll try to remember to link that in the show notes if you want to listen to all those stories. But suffice it to say, everything that I scripted and manifested for that 5th birth came to be true. And again, be careful what you wish for, because it was so fast that I was in shock. I was like, is this happening? It really? What? Wait, no. And now I have a baby. What? So little too fast. I think I needed to be more specific and say a certain number of hours or something. So be careful what you manifest. So I had these experiences with manifestation, with scripting specifically. And so I knew that it was possible. And so I started working with this coach, and one of the biggest things that she had me do was to take radical responsibility for where I was in life. And she specifically had me, because I came to her, I hired her because I'm in this relationship that I need to exit, and I need to make money so that I can support myself, so that I can get my own place. And I need to figure out how to essentially escape this situation. because that was my MO also, running away. But that's for another podcast. She had me look at where I was responsible for the situation I was in, radical responsibility. And one of the exercises she had me do, she said, okay, I want you to write 2 stories for me. In one story, I want the story to be that you're the victim. Everything that is happening in your life is happening to you, and you're the good guy. He's the bad guy. The circumstances are at fault, everything like that. And you could do no wrong. And then I want you to write the other side of that story where everything is your fault. Radical honesty. And man, that was powerful. In writing that version where I was the perpetrator, where I was responsible for everything, where everything was my fault, was very empowering. And I reflected and I saw, wow, for the first time, taking myself out of that victimhood mentality and taking that radical responsibility for how I had created this situation that I was in. And so I think why I bring that up, I think that is a big part of manifestation, because you need to believe that you are powerful. You need to believe that you are the creator of your own reality. And so I feel like that really set the stage for what came next. And so what came next was actually that my 16-year-old daughter became pregnant in high school. And then she manifested her own home birth, which I taught her the scripting, and she did a good job manifesting the birth that she wanted as well. But that was literally the last straw. Now we had, what does that make, 8 of us in this little tiny house. And yeah, my daughter couldn't stay in the cabin anymore either because she needed help postpartum. She was a single 17-year-old mom. And essentially, I had to be her caregiver, me with my just turned 1-year-old son as well, still postpartum myself. So that was literally the last straw. My husband's sleeping on the couch and I'm caregiving my daughter postpartum. And I said, we have to get out of here. And so I just put it out there in the universe. I would love to move into a bigger house. And I took the aligned action and I started looking for places. And my husband he's like, oh, we can't afford a real house. We're going to, yes, we can upgrade. We can get a bigger, a double wide, but we can't afford a regular house. And I'm like, no, I want to be in a house. And so we got a realtor and I kept looking at houses and I kept that in my mind. Like, no, I want a house. And it just so happened that pieces fell into place, that it lined up, the perfect place showed up within our budget. And then when it was time to do the financing, that my mother-in-law stepped in and helped us close the gap. And so, boom, all of a sudden, here we are in a beautiful 2-story house on a lake. And it made no sense, right? It made no sense. And in the meantime, I think my husband got a promotion and things just shifted. I sold all the animals, sold the farm, essentially, everything except a few of the chickens and my dogs and cats. And I rented out our other property and it came to be. And I could have settled. I could have believed what seemed to be the logical truth that we couldn't afford it, that wasn't attainable. And actually, to be honest, my husband didn't even think that we could move. He didn't even want to move. He didn't even see that as a possibility. But for me, the urge, the desire was so strong. The wish and the hope was so strong. And the belief was so strong that I manifested it into reality. And at the end of it, turning around and looking back at how easy it was and how amazing the upgrade was, I was like, holy shit. I almost couldn't believe that it had happened. And even a couple of years later, we've been in this house 2.5 years now. I'm just like, wow. I did this. And so during that time as well, I wasn't just quantum leaping my life as far as where I was living. Right after that move, I decided I was ready to go after my dream, which was to be a coach. Although I should say originally my dream for many years was to be a psychologist. But at some point along the way, I started realizing that all of the student loan debt and all of the hours of brainwashing in academia maybe weren't the right way to go. I have a psychology degree, and it was always, I'll go back and get that PhD when the kids are old enough. And at some point along the way, I decided maybe I don't want to be in the system like that. So then the dream shifted to becoming a coach and also using my voice. And so I knew in my heart I wanted to do a blog and do a podcast. And so very quickly, I manifested all of those things as well. And again, with the amount of things that were already on my plate, it would have been very easy to just say, well, now's not the time. But I believed in myself. And again, with scripting, I wrote it out. I wrote out what I would love, how I would love to feel. And then I embodied it and I stepped into it. And so the version of me, who I was 4 years ago when I first started having these thoughts, who I was 3 years ago when I decided, this is it, I am done. I am not this person anymore. Something has to give. The version of me who I was 2.5 years ago when I bought this house, when I moved into this house. These are quantum leaps that I've taken, and the version of me now is so different. And that's really what it takes. So what it takes is to become a different version of yourself. Because the old me, like I said, the old me was overgiving. The old me was martyring. The old me was not taking care of herself. And that version of me couldn't have a podcast, couldn't have a blog, couldn't run a coaching business because I was fried. I was burnt out. And so to step into that new version of me, I had to set boundaries. I had to start putting my needs first and caring for myself. I had to say no to some things. I had to step away from some things, such as the farm, such as the art co-op. I had to set priorities and keep them. And I had to embody this braver and bolder version of myself who's willing to do things like this, to come here in front of, on camera, on the mic, in front of who knows how many people, and speak my truth, and to not be afraid to use my voice, and to not be afraid to look silly, and to not be afraid to be rejected. And so that really took a massive amount of growth. And what that took was a decision to step into that higher version of myself. And so now I am in the middle of another quantum leap. I love my house. I love my life, but I can see what is next. And I have my mindset, my heart set on owning a retreat center. Not just owning a retreat center, but owning a retreat center in a tropical paradise. And so now that my husband is on board and sees what a powerful manifestor I actually am, this is his vision as well. And so I am now calling in that quantum leap. And to go back to, I will say, I'm talking about my husband, and I've talked about this on past podcasts. I manifested our relationship up-leveling as well because, like I said, I took radical responsibility for my part in the equation, and I stepped up and I owned my shit. And I started showing up as a better partner and a better version of myself. But not only that, I manifested a vision of him in his higher version of his self as well. When I looked at him, I saw the version of him that I desired him to be. I held him in that higher vision. Not that I put standards on him that I needed him to reach, but in my mind's eye, saw him as already there. And so that is a big key in manifestation. It's to embody the wish fulfilled, embody to really live in that reality, even if it's not here in the physical yet, to live in that next level reality. And then the physical reality will come to meet it. If in your heart, in your mind, in your vision, in your imagination, you are living there in the wish fulfilled, in the dream fulfilled, in the desire fulfilled, then reality has no choice but to meet you there and conform to those standards. If you're exhausted from carrying it all and wondering where you went, my $7 self-care reset is for you. In just 5 days, you'll begin coming home to yourself through simple practices that support nervous system healing, self-connection, and radical responsibility. Because your dream marriage isn't created by waiting for someone else to change. It's created by becoming the fullest expression of you. Grab it through the link in the show notes. I also want to give a shout out to Jocelyn Dawn, who I have been working with. She is a manifestation coach, and I've been working with her for almost a year. I had a podcast recording that I did with her. I interviewed her on manifestation, and she has helped me so much in learning to acclimate my nervous system to hold more, to hold these visions of more abundance. And one of the ways that she does that, her signature way actually, is through EFT tapping. And specifically, she has a method called the expand method. And so I will link to her. I highly encourage following her and checking out what she's doing. She is a brilliant coach and has really helped me to believe in myself and believe that I am a powerful manifester and that literally the sky is the limit. And I also want to leave you with a couple of tips. So I brought up scripting, and this is where I would recommend that you start. So when you script, write from the first person in I am statements, as if you are already living the life that you wish. So I am so happy and grateful that I am finally living on my dream property. There are banana trees growing all around me. My retreat center is beautiful. Everything is lush. Women are flocking from all over the world to do retreats with me. So speak as if you are immersed in the experience. And don't just write it down once and put it away. Write it again, rewrite it, reread it, edit it, add more, change things. It's a living, breathing part of you. The second thing I want you to do is to embody it, to get into the emotion of it. So using your imagination, because your imagination is your most powerful manifestation tool. So getting into your imagination and not just daydreaming, but really getting into the feeling of the dream, of the desire. So I might imagine myself walking on the beach and feeling the warm sand crunch beneath my feet. I imagine the smell of the ocean breeze and the sound of the wind going through the fruit trees on my property. I imagine what it feels like to have a room full of women in my retreat center that I am serving, really getting into it, feeling the emotion, feeling the gratitude. Gratitude is such a powerful emotion. Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you for this wish fulfilled. So I would love to hear in the comments what you are cooking up, what you are manifesting. And if you have any more questions, reach out. Follow Jocelyn Dawn as well. I love you all, and I will see you next time. Want to dance with me? Go deeper with me? Have me in your back pocket, literally? Join the Ecstatic Life Academy on the Go Collab app, link in show notes.